Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And today's show is brought to you by the Dream Project. You can find out more information from our friends at the Dream Project at the link at the bottom of your screen. And joining me is one of my favorite guests, because we're going to have Josh in here later, and he's my least favorite.
So your favorite.
There you go.
For
There
the
you
show.
go. And this has been a while. Of course, it's Daria De Lucia of At Hoboken Eats. Daria, how are you today?
I'm good. How have you been? It's been a while.
It's been so long. I know Nicolette's been stealing my thunder.
She has. Crushing it as always.
Crushing it as always. And she is missed today, but she'll be back on future episodes, I promise. Or maybe even later this show. We'll soon find out. So Daria, we do like to have a lot of fun here on The Pulse, especially during your segments. But, there was a tragic loss in the city of Hoboken in the food industry with Napoli's. There are two locations, one at 1118 Washington Street, the other one at 133 Clinton Street. Napoli's owner, Frank Volpe, died at the very, very young age of 42 years old from complications of COVID, which led to pneumonia and all that, and all the medical issues after that. So I just think it's only fair that we share a little bit of personal stories from our time with Frank, and we'll begin with you.
Yeah, super tragic story, and I know that this one was felt all throughout the town and beyond. I think that he was not only is his restaurant such a strong and big part of Hoboken, he was such a presence every time you were around him. I remember, I think you were even the one who introduced me to him.
At Pizza Fest,
yep.
I remember. Yes,
and we had been talking at that point that day, and he was like, I see you all the time. Like, I always want to say hi. And he was just such a friendly guy. And from that point forward, every time I even walked by one of his locations and he was there, he'd yell my name from down the street. And we'd get into such a nice conversation. And he was the kind of person that you meet him once, and you've known him your whole life, it feels like. And the way that he talks to you and welcomes you into his family, into his Napoli's family, it's a rare breed right at this point. So he is definitely going to be, you can feel the piece missing.
Yeah, it's almost like a void that's missing. Yeah, absolutely. And as everybody knows, his original location, which he's had since 2004, I believe, so 17 years now, is located right next door to my parents' deli. So he banked on my parents when he was coming in there to give them a lot of advice and so on and so forth. One thing that I remember about Frankie is how a hard worker he is. I mean, whether it was putting that outside street eatery that everybody's enjoying, he was out there putting the roof on there, painting and so on and so forth. This Clinton Street location, which he's only had for 3 or 4 years now, which we'll put a highlight reel on the bottom of your screen, Daria trying all the food there. If you, I think that would be over a year ago, or who knows when that was. But he was painting the outside of the restaurant, which used to be Grimaldi's.
Yep.
So, I mean, just, building that business from the ground up, and a person that took pride in his work.
Yep.
And really now, he's going to be missed. I mean, I can tell you, we shed tears, my family and I did, because, he was almost like family to us. So.
Yeah. I remember, just to go off of that parklet, I remember when we were filming one of the segments there, he was outside hanging stuff up, doing the work. He's not just someone, it seemed like, to, make everyone do his dirty work. He was hands-on, invested in the business, invested in his community. Like I said, he really made everyone that knew him feel like family.
Exactly. So one funny story before we get into, the wonderful food at Napoli's. When Frankie was opening up, he had a partner. This is before he met his beautiful current wife right now, and they married. He had a partner named Rosario, and maybe about a month before they opened, they came into Delhi to talk to, my parents, to show them his menu. And he's like, I really don't want to put prosciutto, because we know prosciutto is a big seller here in the deli. You know what I'm saying? Which, again, that just shows you what type of person he is. And my mother, and I'll never forget the story, looks at him and she goes, "You don't want me to start selling pizza, do you?" and he didn't have prosciutto on the menu. Anyway, well, let's talk about a great story.
I love that.
Let's talk about what he would have wanted us to talk about, and that's his amazing cuisine. I mean, I know it's more than just pizza, but I'm sure. What is your go-to item every time you go there?
I've said this once and I'll say it again, the vodka penne pasta on pizza. I know I don't want to go against what your mom has taught you, but it is my absolute favorite pizza. Had it again last week. It is my absolute favorite, and I will stand by that. You get that is the best day when you get a whole pie of penne vodka pizza, but when you have somebody who likes meatballs on pizza, you have to get the half penne vodka, half meatball slice, half meatball pie. So that's our current go-to, and the garlic knot sliders.
Right.
Love those.
And the garlic nut sliders come with either a meatball inside or chicken parm, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's staple. So it's funny, you mentioned the penne vodka pizza, and you were like, don't knock it until you tried it.
Yes.
And then I tried it after the show was over, and it was bomb.
Would I ever steer you wrong?
You're absolutely not. But like I thought Frank did a really, really good job at expanding the menu as well, correct? I think his
huge.
salads are phenomenal as well.
Big fan of the buffalo chicken salad. Get that all the time. And they has quite a few other options as well, but the wraps, the sandwiches, the hot sandwiches, cold sandwiches, really like huge menu. The pastas, everything, the sauces there are so delicious. They have like a sausage pasta, the penne pasta. I mean, it's you can get anything you want. Any craving you have, you go there with somebody, you will find something that you want. Even the pizza selection, I don't even know if I've had a plain slice from Napoli's before. I just love going and trying all the crazy concoctions. I think I've had the bacon chicken ranch and a barbecue slice before, barbecue
I think the bacon chicken ranch you had in the pizza festival.
Yeah,
Put this on the bottom of your screen as well. I mean, we love to show Daria stuffing her face, as you can see. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but I think that the menu itself, I love it. Love every aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And you know, I mean, I've seen...
Even the dessert pizza, I'm cutting you off because I'm having flashbacks. They have
the
Nutella.
That's
yeah.
right. I believe it comes with bananas.
I think so. Oh, my
goodness.
Yeah, I'm looking at you and I'm like, wait, there's one more that I know I want to say.
Well, I was going to say that. I mean, he has... Because, again, he's right next door to my father's deli, and I see people eating outside all the time. And, like, the cheeseburgers look good there.
Yeah, no, everything. Everything.
I mean, you know, he definitely took pride
and that's
in his work.
why he was able to open up a second restaurant in the same town. I mean, that's pretty much unheard of to be able to do that. And you got to give him so much credit and his team so much credit to be able to do that and be able to do it so successfully. Like the one downtown is awesome. It's right by my apartment and I love it.
Which is great. And how's that mural on the outside? I mean, absolutely stunning.
Amazing.
And such a testament to the city of Hoboken.
And it was like he built that after the years of being uptown, and he was like, this is what I want to give back to Hoboken. I want to put this mural on here. It's almost like it was giving back to the community, almost in a weird way. Like he was painting us a picture.
Right, absolutely. And you know, I always said Napoli's is a great place where you can go with your family. Yeah. You know, little kids, I see them out there all the time. But also like a date night spot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's I hate when people say fancy pizza. To me, pizza's pizza. I mean,
if it's good, that's literally all that matters.
That's it. That matters. But like, I'm sure people have had first dates there and many other dates there. So.
Yeah, Matt and I have been there on dates, and it's also a place whenever my mom comes in, we stop in there and have a nice slice together.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, Frank, speaking from everybody here at the Pulse, for Daria, you will be certainly missed, but your legacy will hopefully live on for many, many years to come.
It will, and hopefully we can show the GoFundMe at the bottom, maybe get some more.
Thank you for the reminder. Do you just want to take hosting duties? Yes, there is a GoFundMe page that's raising money for his medical expenses and his funeral expenses, so please visit that at the bottom of your page, like Daria said. There you go. She's got the little Vanna White thing going. All right. Daria DeLucia of At Hoboken Eats. Let's do this again very soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Peter.
All right. Absolutely. Napoli's Pizza, 1118 Washington Street and 133 Clinton Street. Get over there. Tell them Daria sent you. We will be right back.
My story is a New Jersey story, and it all started right here on Anderson Street in Raritan Borough, where my parents owned a bar and restaurant and raised their family. I'm Jack Chittarelli. Jersey's where I started and built 2 successful Main Street businesses, creating jobs and opportunities for fellow New Jerseyans. It's where Melinda and I raise our 4 children. This is my home, and yours. But New Jersey is broken. You know it, and I know it. And we're going to fix it together. Every one of us has our New Jersey story. As governor, I'll work hard every day to ensure that our children and their children can write their own.
Welcome back. I'm guest host Pavel Sokolov here with Joshua Einstein Sotomayor to talk about recent happenings and events around Hudson County. Josh, would you like to give us your thoughts on the recent Board of Education decision to reopen schools through K-12 in the coming weeks?
So what happened in Jersey City, I mean, I think from anyone's vantage point, from the teachers' vantage point, from the administration, from the parents, even possibly from students, has been a unmitigated crap show.
Now, why do you say that?
Because it was several weeks ago where the administration notified all the teachers that they were needed back in the schools in order to go through procedures for having in school education. Obviously with modifications for the pandemic and the COVID times that we live in. And very few teachers actually showed up. And basically there was an unofficial sick out, where people said they were either not feeling well or said that they didn't feel comfortable or safe going into school. And so the administration in the Jersey City school system was left to figure out how the heck do we go forward with this?
Where do you think this disconnect is coming from? We're hearing one thing from the teachers, one thing from administration, Mayor Fulop weighed in, and even now Governor Murphy. Why is there such a big disconnect? Why aren't the people talking to each other?
Well, I think it'd be disingenuous to say that most teachers don't care about students. I think it's clear that teachers care about their students.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of teachers out there, a lot of public bureaucratic administrators in the boards of education, and that includes some teachers. And there's unions that don't give a crap about the students, and they just are out for the perceived interest of the teachers. So what's happening is, and you have this on not just in the Jersey City and the municipal level, but you have this on the national level with the Union of Federated Teachers, Randy Weingarten, who's basically said, well, something to the effect that, well, rich people, just don't care about the poor people. That's why they want the public schools to open back up. And the reality is, whether it's parochial school, charter schools, or private schools, there are schools that are outside of the public district system across the state of New Jersey and across the country that have managed to go forward with COVID aware measures to prevent the spread. And they've been based on the science, like the fact that, it's much more unlikely to be spread from child to child. Children are usually less often to be carriers. They're usually not infected. And obviously, we can make, and these schools have made that have opened accommodations for older educators, for educators with comorbidities. But what's clear is that on the one side, people that can get their children educated, whether it's after school groups that are meeting in schools and under private auspices, or people that are just sending their kids straight up to private school or have a scholarship to a parochial school, it's clear that their kids are getting educated. And the vast majority of public school kids, especially in urban areas, are getting screwed over.
Right. We've seen in Hoboken, different parts of New York City, and other townships around our area that schools can be reopened safely, infections don't soar, and kids are going back to a sense of normalcy in education. Wouldn't you say that depriving kids of that sense of comfort and return to normalcy will do much more psychological harm than the small chance that they might get COVID?
Well, there's definitely there's definitely psychological harm that's being done to children, especially this heightened state of fear that our political leaders, like Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, has inculcated across the state. But more importantly, the public school system, especially in urban areas, wasn't doing great before the COVID emergency. And now, in terms of academics, in terms of their future, we basically said to mostly urban parents, but also some suburban parents, we don't care about your child. And when Phil Murphy, it's good that he weighed in and said Jersey City should go back to publicly educating the kids in the schools. But it does ring hypocritical because this is the schmendrick that pretends that because most districts have a hybrid education, that kids are actually getting educated. When hybrid education means in some districts that kids come in twice a week for 3 to 4 hours. In those different segments. So we're talking about a total of 6 to 8 hours a week, as if they actually learn anything in those times, and if that's comparable to pre-COVID education. So we've seen a complete failure of online education, of hybrid education, And we've seen, when it comes to education, the teachers unions are missing in action. They're AWOL.
Right, with all this constant talk we're hearing of equity, of class redistribution, and different topics to try to help figure out the divide between the haves and have-nots, education has always been seen as the great equalizer. Going to school, going to college, getting a job, and then from there being able to support your family. But it looks like, for political reasons, kids who need the most help, their futures are being mortgaged just for political points, when the reality is that their priority just isn't there from the top leadership to make sure that kids are getting that education. Because like you said, it's apparently clear that online education is nowhere near this substitute for the social and academic development that in-school learning gives you.
Yeah, so it's like you're talking about with the equity, related, but maybe tangentially related. You have, at the same time as they're basically screwing over urban residents, in particular the Black and Hispanic community in our urban districts. You have Looney Tunes on the left rallying in Jersey City for an amnesty for all illegal aliens, which is just insane, as well as a self-described Black Power rally where there was many a chant of F the police. And I have nothing against African Americans wanting political power or cultural influence. They have a lot of cultural influence because of the creativity in that community. So good on them. But when you go the extra mile and say F the police as if there is some mythological war from the cops against the African Americans and other minorities, I kind of hope you burn in hell because you're perpetuating a mythology. And all of our politicians in Hudson County are responsible for that. They have pushed that. They've also pushed, they pushed the mythology by bending the knee at the BLM rallies. And they also pushed the mythology that America is somehow harmful to immigrants, as if all immigrants are illegal immigrants. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a space for protest and especially public outcry against police issues, police brutality, as we've seen in the national news lately. But you shouldn't forget that the police are out there to serve and protect, and ideally you should be able to lean on them to help protect your property, protect your person, and keep your community safe. So there definitely is room for community oversight boards, internal investigations to make sure that the police are held accountable for their actions, because like any other government official or just employee of any function, they are accountable to the people that they should be serving, us. And it is still important to have a strict understanding that it's not a necessarily competitive and antagonistic relationship. At the end of the day, you have to put yourself out there and understand that the police are doing the best that they can do, but at the same time, they're responsible for their actions. So there is a middle ground, between F the police and the cops doing whatever they want. Both are valid in thinking that they're doing the best that they can be for their community, but it has to be collaborative, not combative.
Oh, we can definitely have reform. Just the pushing of harmful mythologies by our Democratic overlords in Hudson County obviously results in these ridiculous amoral rallies.
Right. It definitely spoils the narrative from the get-go. Thank you. We'll be right back.
My story is a New Jersey story, and it all started right here on Anderson Street in Brereton Borough, where my parents owned a bar and restaurant and raised their family. I'm Jack Chitterelli. Jersey's where I started and built 2 successful Main Street businesses, creating jobs and opportunities for fellow New Jerseyans. It's where Melinda and I raise our 4 children. This is my home, and yours. But New Jersey is broken. You know it, and I know it. And we're going to fix it together. Every one of us has our New Jersey story. As governor, I'll work hard every day to ensure that our children and their children can write their own.
Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to go on our Facebook and our Instagram pages by searching The Pulse with Peter B. and like and follow us on each of those platforms. We're constantly updating those pages with previews of each week's segments and cool stories. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our email address at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com.
Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. I'm guest host Nicolette Ayala, and joining us is our MMA industry insider, my good friend, Christian Inga. Christian, how are you?
I'm doing good, Nicolette. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for coming on the show. It's your first Pulse premiere.
Yeah, I'm
So
glad to be here.
All right, so we're here. We're actually going to talk about MMA, and I figured we just kind of give our viewers or audience just an MMA like 101 kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like just this is something about it's this sport. If they want to know more of, like, they're gonna watch this show and they're gonna listen to you. So figure we just jump right in. So now we've known each other for over 10 years. Where were you when you first learned about mixed martial arts? Who taught you the sport? How did you first get into the sport, essentially?
So this was back in high school.
Okay.
I had a good friend invite me over his home to watch UFC 100.
Okay.
And that card was a huge UFC card and a huge event in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the UFC. George St. Pierre was fighting Thiago Alves. Brock Lesnar was fighting Frank Mir. John Jones was on the undercard. Dan Hardy knocked out Michael Bigsby, and then it was a huge knockout, and it was an incredible card. And right after that, I just knew I wanted to try this out. And when I asked my friend, like, hey, where can I train?
Right.
He was like, it's illegal here. So I knew that I needed to find a gym where I can really train and learn this sport. So when I graduated, I moved to Florida to go to school there and to also train. And there I found this gym called Train Fight Win. Mm-hmm. And my coach, Josh Saman and Joe Miller, they're the ones who I met down there and who taught me how to fight.
So essentially, they were the ones that created the path for you, kind of
Yeah,
thing,
for sure.
helped you start up. Awesome. So now, once you got down to Florida, essentially, like, how long, have you been a fighter?
I first started fighting in 2012.
That was your first fight. Okay. You want to
Yeah.
talk about that? Let's go. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I would say for amateurs, it takes about like 3 years to kind of learn jiu-jitsu, wrestling, a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of boxing, just get
Right.
the grasp
the
of everything.
principles,
Yeah.
the basics of actually, MMA, like what it entails, like what type of fighting styles per se.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Okay. Awesome. So now, since 2012, okay, and how did that fight end up?
I actually got so we I almost got the TKO, but the cage was like exposed. This is Florida, so of course
Okay.
the cage was like exposed. It was like a piece of metal coming out. So
Okay.
when we went to the ground, my head hit the side of the cage, and I got like 13 stitches. Yeah, I got I didn't feel that at the time. I was good to go,
Right.
but
You're like, no.
the ref was
Yeah.
like, "This is amateurs, man. You're not even getting paid for this, so
Right.
stop the fight."
Right.
And so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. But still, you were able to get in there, see how it felt being like a
yeah.
fighter, like getting injured,
Oh,
'cause,
yeah, it
you
was the
hear
best
stuff
high
all
ever,
the time.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now essentially, how long does a fighter have to train before a fight? What's their camp schedule like? What's their workout schedule like?
So generally, a camp is 8 weeks long.
Okay.
I like to do 8 weeks at least. The first 2 weeks, get my cardio up,
Okay.
get into shape, and then the next 6 weeks is game planning and really working what I want to do in the fight and how I want to beat my opponent.
Okay. Awesome. And now, how many different weight classes for both men and women are there in the MMA?
So in
And,
the
UFC.
yeah, in the UFC, there's 9 weight classes for the men and there's 4 for women.
Okay.
I fight at lightweight, so that's 155.
Okay.
And generally, it goes on from 10 pounds increments until you get to 185. And then from 185, it jumps up to 205. And then from 205, heavyweight is anything from 205 to 265, which is crazy.
So on and so forth. So it's not just like, hey, I'm going to be a fighter. I'm going to go in and this is going to be my weight class. It's,
No.
Okay. So
Yeah.
there's things you got to do behind the scene in order to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about the main rules of mixed martial arts. What's legal, what counts as illegal,
So
kind of brush us up there.
for the common illegal moves, you can't hit to the groin. You can't eye gouge. You can't do a 12 to 6 elbow where you bring your fist up in the air and bring the elbow down on someone's head.
Okay.
You can't knee a downed opponent. So basically, if someone's hand is on the mat, you
Right.
can't knee that person in the face.
That's it, or else you'll be disqualified.
Yeah, you'll be disqualified.
Done. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes they take a point away, like if you hit to the groin accidentally, and if it's an accident, they'll take a point away.
Right.
Or they give you a warning.
Right.
If it's clearly a warning. But if it's intentional,
Intentional, that's it. You're
that's
done.
it.
You're
Yeah,
out of
they
there.
can't continue. It's gone. Yeah.
Okay, and now essentially, what are the 3 ways one can win an MMA, match?
3 ways. I would say TKO. There's KO, submission.
Okay.
TKO is a technical knockout.
Okay.
A KO, of course, is a knockout.
Straight
and
knockout,
and a decision. So if after the fight's over, the judges score the fight each round,
Right.
and then whoever comes out the winner in their eyes
Right.
is the one that gets their hand raised.
Okay. Hopefully we don't get a decision. Okay. And now, did you expect MMA to continue to grow in popularity the way it has been, within the past few years?
Yes and no. I say yes because of how MMA is promoted, especially by the UFC, and how they use fighters and how they really get the audience to invest their time into a fighter's story, into the fighter personality,
Right.
And then I say no because at the time I'm just like, I want to fight. I just love this. This is so raw.
Right.
To me it's like,
Right.
I'm a lover of art.
Right.
And like the MMA is like one of the purest forms of art. Like you'll never see those sequence of punches or kicks or takedowns
Right.
in that order ever again.
Right. And it's an interesting perspective because, I've watched a few, fights, and that's a different perspective that I could see going forward, like watching a next fight, like, oh, wow, like, this is very rare. Like, are you going to hit it's not like boxing where you do jab, uppercut, stuff like that. So I get it. You're teaching me a little insight on this. So
there could be like one dominant fighter for the first 2 rounds.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the
switch up.
third round, the other fighter decides to take him down and finds a hole and then submits. So anything can happen.
Right.
And yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So now, Christian, if someone wants to be an MMA fighter, they want to start getting into the sport, where should they start out essentially?
I would definitely do my research, find whatever gyms are close by, and just check them out. Like shop for them, see how the atmosphere is in each gym, see where your fit is, because not every gym is made for anybody.
Right.
Each coach, you might learn better from this gym than the other.
Right.
And that all depends on
so essentially, don't go in blindly into
don't
this.
go in. Do your research.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And now, do want to ask you, when do you see yourself fighting next?
As soon as this pandemic's
Right.
over. Yeah.
As soon as it's over. So
honestly, there are people fighting, but it's with limited crowds, and there's nothing like a crowd.
Right.
There's nothing like people chanting your name and like just being under those lights.
Right.
But I can't see myself doing it without my friends and family being there.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's a special event.
Yeah.
And I want to share it with them. So as soon as this pandemic's over, I'm definitely going to get back in there.
Okay. And now, Christian, 10 seconds. What advice would you give to an upcoming fighter or someone who's interested in MMA?
Stretch and rest, because you do not want to get hurt. And if you want to have a long career, you got to take care of that body.
All right. Absolutely. All right. Well, Christian, I'm so glad you were able to come on the show. Hopefully, next time you come on, we can talk about, upcoming fights happening at the UFC.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes,
for sure.
yes. All right. This week's show is brought to you by The Dream Project. You can find out more information from our friends there at the link at the bottom of the screen. Join us next week for The Pulse on everything you need to know. I'm Nicolette Ayala. Have a great week, everyone.
The Pulse with Peter B. is a proud partner of Eyes on NJ.
I'm Jack Chitterelli. Jersey's where I started and built 2 successful Main Street businesses, creating jobs and opportunities for fellow New Jerseyans. It's where Melinda and I raise our 4 children. This is my home, and yours. But New Jersey is broken. You know it, and I know it. And we're going to fix it together.